Martin, and I'm your MSU Democrats president here on campus. I am so excited to see everyone here, not only from MSU, but also our community. Before we kick this off, I do have to introduce a special guest. We have Walter Coppage here with us. He's running on the Democratic ticket for Texas State House. This election, this one, starting on Monday, is going to be the most important state election in the country.
Yes, it is!
There's too much at stake to sit this one out. So I want to hear who's going to vote this November? We need to vote for a governor that can affect some real change in the state of Texas. Because in this state, we deserve a governor that's going to prioritize access to mental health care.
Yes!
We deserve a governor that's going to protect our kids when they go to school each morning. We deserve a governor who's going to decriminalize marijuana. We are going to elect a governor that's going to stand by parents who get their children gender-affirming health care. And we deserve a governor that's going to protect our freedoms, that's going to protect our choice to make our own decisions about our own health care, our own future, and our own Texas, Wichita Falls, MSU, we deserve a governor that's truly Texan in every way. So that's why I'm so excited to introduce to you my friend, the next governor of the great state of Texas.
Me too, right back at you. MSU, Wichita Falls, how are we feeling today? You all look beautiful to me, and it's so wonderful. To be back on this campus. It's true, especially you, especially you. We keep coming back because you all keep showing up. And I gotta tell you, though I believe, you tell me if I'm wrong, our current governor is actually from Wichita Falls. He is sleeping on y'all. I don't know that he's coming to MSU and holding open meetings like these where anyone can come out, right? To listen to and learn from the people that he should be serving right now. But we are showing up, even though Wichita Falls and my hometown of El Paso are almost as far as two communities can be while still being in the same state. I just figure we have more in common than would otherwise divide us. And I come first with a message of thanksgiving, because every single time that we have shown up, you all have turned out, and you have welcomed us so warmly. And listen, we were told the very first time, I think back in 2017, hey Beto, this is a red part of Texas. They're not going to welcome a Democrat, especially one from El Paso. That's another time zone in the Chihuahuan Desert next to Sila Juarez. This is not your people. This is not your place. And yet, from the first time to the 10th time that we have been here, you all have made us feel right here at home. And I'll tell you this, more than anything else, because this may be the last time I get to see you and be with you before November 8th, I just want you to know that what you all are doing, what you have done, and what you will do over the next 2 weeks will ensure that we win this election on the night of November 8th. We're going to do this together. And here's how I know we're going to win. It's because we're fighting for all the right things, all the right people, like making sure that every Texas woman makes her own decisions about her own body, her own future, her own health care, like prioritizing the lives of our kids over the interests of the NRA, or the gun lobby, or any politician for that matter, like having the backs of our public school educators, our classroom teachers, our counselors, our librarians, the hidden heroes of 2022, right? Who knew that they would literally be on the front lines of saving this democracy and preserving knowledge for children and adults for that matter, and making sure that 246 years into this experiment, we can still pull it off. But let me just say this to those educators in the room. I know full well that here in this county, you are underpaid by about $10,000 a year against the national average. That means you're working 2 or 3 jobs, not for kicks, not for extra spending cash, but literally to pay the note on the mortgage, or to pay rent, or put food on the table, or be able to fill that prescription for your kids. This monitor here keeps popping for anyone who's watching this one. You, on top of that, out of your own pocket, are paying for the decorations that are celebrating Halloween today, Thanksgiving tomorrow, Christmas and Hanukkah after that. And though you don't have enough to make ends meet in your own home, when that child who's on free and reduced breakfast and lunch goes home to a household that doesn't have enough money to put food on the table at night, very often out of your own pocket, you're paying for that meal as well. You make sure that you're taking care of those kids. And what I've heard from you is that after 2 years of pandemic, 2 years of learning loss, 2 years of extraordinary trauma for young people where they may have lost a grandparent, they may have lost their homes, their parents may have lost their jobs. We just want to make sure that we are connecting with them, that we're keeping them alive literally, and we need valuable classroom time to do that. In other words, we don't need days, weeks, months spent on a high-stakes, high-pressure, standardized test that in no way effectively measures the potential of that child or the effort expended on that kid's behalf by his teachers. What we need to do is cancel the STAR test in the state of Texas. And for the retired teachers in our midst, I just want to acknowledge you have not had a cost of living adjustment since the year of our Lord, 2004. It has been 18 years as prices have gone through the roof, even just over the course of this last year, and you've not been able to count on not having to work well into your retirement. So when we win, we're also going to make sure that we have that cost of living adjustment every single year, and every educator and every retired educator and every incoming educator, and I've seen many of them in this room, treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve, that they're owed, and that they have earned. I just want to make sure you all know that we've got your backs. For the veterans and retired military, and I'm very aware, just like my hometown of El Paso, outside of Fort Bliss and the 1st Armored Division, here we are just outside of Shepherd, where so many women and so many men have literally been willing to put their lives on the line for this country. Many actively serving right now who are here, many planning going into service, and some have already returned from tours in Korea and Vietnam and Afghanistan and Iraq and Somalia and Yemen and all the places that we send the men and women from this state to go serve, to give their lives potentially, and potentially to take the lives of others in the name of this country. We know that America spares no expense enlisting you, training you, preparing you, equipping you, sending you out there into harm's way. But we know that this country and this state can be found wanting sometimes when you return. In a state that boasts the 9th largest economy on the planet, it's a $2 trillion gross domestic product in the state of Texas, a biannual budget of $250 billion a year. Tonight, when you're in your dorm rooms or apartments or homes, and I'm going to be in a hotel in Amarillo, there will be veterans sleeping on the side of the road, on park benches, and underneath bridges. I propose that after we win, this state spare no expense, bear any burden necessary to make sure each and every single one of those veterans has a roof over their head, is connected to the care that they need, that we don't subject this generation to what the Vietnam era endured. 40 years, they waited to have their exposure to Agent Orange treated as a presumptive condition for the cancers that consume them. We're going to make sure that we stand up a toxic burn pit registry right here in the state of Texas so that we don't wait those 4 decades another time. And those Vietnam era veterans who are not treated with the respect that they were owed and that they earned are first in line to make sure that we do the right thing. And here's one more thing. And actually, I heard this when we were doing a tour of VFW halls across the state of Texas, including right here in Wichita Falls earlier this year. When you're lucky enough to get into the VA and you're able to see that provider, all too often, they are too willing to prescribe an opioid to treat that post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury or those who returned with military sexual trauma. You know what I'm talking about. And you say, I know that tens, now hundreds of thousands of our fellow Americans have become addicted, have died from those addictions, have overdosed on opioids. I don't want to do that. And there's this other substance that I can use that will address my symptoms, that will improve my appetite, that will allow me to sleep at the end of the day. But to use it in Texas right now makes me a criminal in the eyes of the law. So for every woman and man who has served and has told me that, not only are we going to decriminalize, we will fully legalize marijuana in the state of Texas to make sure that you don't have to worry about incarceration or an interaction with law enforcement. We're doing the right thing. And as we just heard, we know that Texans of all races, ethnicities, backgrounds from every part of this state will use marijuana at roughly the same rate. But disproportionately, it is black Texans, it is brown Texans who are overwhelmingly stopped, frisked, arrested, incarcerated, upon release, forced to check a box on every employment application form, every student loan application form, every small business loan application form, saying that they have this conviction, making it less likely that they're able to get forward in their lives. I was in East Texas 2 months ago, and a barber came up to me, and he was commenting on my haircut and said I needed to trim, and he'd be happy to do it. He said, you know what, but the kicker for me, Beto, is it's impossible for me to get a barber's license. And I said, well, tell me why. In 1972, the year I was born, 50 years ago, this guy got stopped with possession for marijuana. And it has prevented him from being able to legally cut people's hair in the state of Texas. This makes absolutely no sense. So in addition to legalization, we're going to expunge the arrest records for everyone convicted of possession of that substance in this state. We're going to win because we're fighting for the right to vote in a state that makes it harder to vote than any other state in the country. Harder to get your name on the rolls, to be registered to vote than anywhere else in America. And to put a point to this case, in March of this year, during our primary elections, a World War II veteran, 95 years old, this guy, in other words, willing to give his life back then to fight fascism overseas, to defend democracy right here at home, had his ballot by mail rejected, not once, but 3 times. And in the midst of a pandemic that had claimed 100,000 lives, this guy at 95 years old could be forgiven for wanting to be able to vote at a distance from his home. And there's no one among us who has more earned the right to vote than that guy who made sure that we have that right now. We're going to fix this democracy when we win, and we're going to do the following. We're going to make sure that you can register to vote online, that we have automatic voter registration so that when you turn 18 years old and you're an eligible U.S. citizen, you're ready to go. Same day voter registration, so if you move from another part of the state to Wichita Falls, you can get that done on election day. We will ensure that members of Congress are no longer able to choose their voters instead of the other way around. Nonpartisan, citizen-led redistricting commissions in the state of Texas. And then there's this. Right now, on the books in Texas, and for those of you who have not seen it, you can go look it up, there is an official state holiday called Confederate Heroes Day. Now, why we celebrate those who were in open rebellion to this country and fought for the right to own other human beings as property is beyond me. But there's an answer to that. We win this election. We replace Confederate Heroes Day with Election Day as a celebrated state holiday. And you can take the day off of school, take the day off of work, and actually be able to vote. One of the reasons that I'm so confident in what we're going to be able to do is because you are here. When we ran in 2018 for the United States Senate, together, we produced the largest voter turnout in Texas history going back to 1970. I became the first Democrat to win the 4 major metro areas and their surrounding counties since LBJ did it in 1964. And you, young people, were at the vanguard. Young voter turnout was up 504% from the previous midterm election. And look, we didn't beat Ted Cruz, we got really close, 2.6%, but we did help a number of other candidates get across the line. 12 new state house Democrats replacing state house Republicans. 2 new members of Congress who flipped control of that institution from red to blue in 2018. And in Harris County, the most diverse city in America, Houston, Texas, 17 African American women were elected to judicial positions in that state. That's the base. That's the base from which we built. And I'm confident that what you are doing right now, what Kristen is doing as one of our campus leaders and organizers, the more than 70,000 college students that we have registered across the state just in the last 6 weeks, they're not showing up in anyone's poll or turnout model. No one sees them coming, but they're absolutely in keeping and in line with what young Americans have always done at this country's moments of truth. Indulge me while I digress. I mentioned that 95-year-old World War II veteran. You know, when he landed on that beach in Normandy in 1944, he was no more older than anyone here. There were 17, 18, and 19-year-olds who landed on that beach, many of whom would never leave that beach except in a casket to be buried overseas far from their families. In the 1960s, it was young people standing up and fighting for, marching for full civil rights in this country and for the right to vote. John Lewis was 24 years old when he attempted to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge to try to compel the first Texas president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, to actually work on the Voting Rights Act. And what he did worked. 8 days after Bloody Sunday, LBJ convenes a joint session of Congress, and he makes the case to every sitting senator and House member that what John Lewis was willing to die for, they had the power to confer. By the summer of that year, he was able to sign that bill into law, creating the first true multiracial democracy in American history. That came right here from this state. So I want to tell you this. You, and no pressure, have the ability to win this election and set this state that is in midst of failures from Greg Abbott over the last 8 years on a course that is going to make all of us proud. And look, I don't think our governor wakes up in the morning wanting kids to be shot in their classrooms, or for this state to lead the nation in the number of school shootings, which it does, or for gun violence to be the leading cause of death for children and teenagers, which it is. I don't think he wakes up wanting the grid to fail in the energy capital of the world and for 700 of our fellow Texans to lose their lives, to freeze to death in their beds, or to die of hypothermia in their trucks, or to burn up when their parents set fire to their furniture trying to keep their kids warm. But that is our reality in the state of Texas today. I don't think he wakes up wanting tens of thousands of educators to be leaving the classrooms, or for our property taxes to have gone up $20 billion over the last 8 years. But after 8 years of Greg Abbott in power, this is where we are. He's had 8 years to do something about these problems, and they've only become worse on his watch. I share this with you to say, look, there are some in this room, and there are some in this room whose parents voted for Greg Abbott last time, and that may have been a very reasonable decision to make 4 years ago. But now with 8 years of track record and history and failure that we got all informed by, I think it is time that we turn the page and move forward. And we welcome in our Republican and Independent and Democratic, for that matter, brothers and sisters into this cause and into this fight. And just imagine what we are going to be able to accomplish when we're able to turn that page and get Texas on the right track. For the first time in 32 years, we'll have a bold, pro-choice governor leading the state to make sure that we're no longer at the epicenter of maternal mortality crisis. We'll be able to do common sense things like expand Medicaid and bring $10 billion back to our federal income taxes. to this state, to connect more people with care, to ensure that the largest provider of mental health care services is no longer the county jail system in the state of Texas, but those psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists that we'll be able to hire will be able to be defined no longer based on our divisions, pitted against one another by our differences, but instead the great things that we want to be able to do together. World-class schools, the best jobs in America found right here in the state of Texas, ensuring that everybody can see that provider, that mental health care specialist, fill that prescription so that they're healthy enough and well enough to live to their full potential. All that stands between us and that reality is everyone in this room right now and the decisions that you make at this defining moment of truth. Because everyone alive and drawing a breath at this moment is the heir to what John Lewis and so many before us have done. We have inherited their service, their sacrifice, and their struggle. And what we do with it is going to define us in the eyes of our kids and in the pages of history forever. And it will determine the future, the fortune, and the fate of the state of Texas. So I'm asking you today, with 4 days to go before early voting starts, a little more than 2 weeks before election night calls this contest, to sign up with one of our amazing volunteers who are in the yellow reflective vests positioned around this room. I'm going to hang out for a little while after we finish this meeting to shake hands with anybody who would like to say hello, to take a picture with anyone who might own a cell phone at this time and be willing to post it on their favorite social media platform and describe in their own words why they came out today. But if you will help me do this, I'll conclude with this. We are not so much a red state, and I don't buy for a second that we are a blue state, and I don't know whether we're the color purple. I think we're best described as being a non-voting state in this moment. When I mentioned earlier that it is harder to vote, harder to get your name on the rolls to vote, that is targeting people who don't look like me. It is targeting people who have always been the targets of disenfranchisement and suppression and intimidation. These are black and brown Americans. These are the very young, the very poor, the very old, and increasingly those with disabilities in the state. Nearly 7 million Texans, though eligible, did not cast a ballot in 2020, arguably the most important presidential election of our lifetimes. And not for a second do I believe that they didn't vote because they're lazy or because they don't love this great democracy that so many have given their lives to establish, expand, and protect. I believe and I know that they were drawn out. 750 polling places have been closed down in this state over the last 10 years. That's twice the number of the next closest state. And the vast majority of those closures in the fastest growing black and brown neighborhoods in the state of Texas. I promise you this, on election night, you are going to see images beamed out of Houston, right outside one of our great historically black colleges, Texas Southern University. The line to vote will be 6 hours deep. Not 6 hours deep because people are so hungry to decide the outcome of this. 6 hours deep because they've closed every other damn polling place in that neighborhood and forced this indignity upon our fellow Americans. And for everyone able to and willing to wait for 6 hours, how many are working a $7.25 an hour job or 2 or 3 $7.25 an hour jobs? How many are raising their kids, taking care of their folks, just living life, or just say, the hell with it, I'm not waiting in the line for 6 hours to cast my ballot. When you are able to use your license to carry a firearm to prove who you are at the polling place, but you dare not use your student ID at MSU to do the same, we understand who is supposed to vote and who is not supposed to vote in the state of Texas. Number one reason given by those 7 million who did not cast a ballot in 2020 for not voting was that no one asked them to vote. No one helped them navigate or understand these rules that make it harder in Texas than anywhere else. That someone that they have been waiting for is you. And if you sign up with me today, I promise you, I'll put you on the doors of those who are the targets of suppression and intimidation. And more likely than not, after they have a chance to listen to you in your own words, from your own heart, describe why this is the most important election of our lifetimes, they are going to vote and we are going to win. And the very people drawn out of this democracy will be brought in by all of us, and they will form the margin of victory when we win this on November 8th. You all with me? All right. Let's make sure that we sign up before we leave. We're going to hang out right here. We're going to hang out over there. We're going to hang out over there on the other side of this room and take pictures with anyone who would like to. If you do take a picture, all we ask is that you post it as quickly as possible, even maybe before you leave here, so that friends, family, classmates, colleagues see that you came out and decide to do the same. Wichita Falls, thank you for having us out today. Let's have a rest.